Hello everyone, this is Katie Colleen here. Welcome back Colleen Clan, or if you are new, then come join the family. So if you have been watching my channel for really any period of time, you may recognize my sewing machine and serger setup. I have a very nice sewing machine. It's very fancy. I'm very blessed to have it. And I can see how, from a beginner perspective of someone who's just getting into cosplay, it could be really intimidating seeing these creators using all of these very expensive, fancy machines to make their costumes. And it might feel like you can't get into doing cosplay just because you can't afford these machines. I'm not gonna lie and say that cosplay can't get expensive, because it absolutely adds up. But there are cheaper ways to do cosplay, and starting off with a older, cheaper machine is one of those ways. My sewing machine and serger are in for maintenance. When you do have one of those nicer machines, you need to take them in for maintenance every year. Judging by my YouTube videos from the last time I did a video like this, it has been well over a year since I've taken my machines in, so they were overdue. So while my machines are away at the shop, I thought I would pull out an older machine and make a cosplay on it with you guys. So here's the sewing machine we'll be using. The brand name says White, but I'm not entirely sure which model number this is. It's a 1960s machine that my husband picked up from the antique store. I actually didn't choose this machine. I just told my husband, wow, I sure would like a backup sewing machine for when I take my machines in for maintenance. And he was like, I got you covered, and he came home with this. It can only do a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch, and you can make a lot with just a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch. Now, my husband did also have to do a few modifications to it, so I'd like to also show you that because I think it's pretty cool. So this machine has completely brand new wiring. The existing wiring on it had the insulation coming off the wire so that the conductors were exposed, like you could see the copper. So in favor of his wife not getting electrocuted, my husband redid all the cording. So from the machine, and then he has this little switch box, turn the machine on or off. So because of my disability, my joints and my legs aren't as strong, and because of that, the muscles in my legs also aren't as strong. So I had a really hard time pushing down this pedal. I guess sewists in the 1960s were just built different, but this is hard for me. So my husband made a little contraption to put it in. You put the foot pedal in it like that, and now I just push it down like this. So this gives me an easier angle to come at the foot pedal, and also you can see that there's leverage, so that when I push here, there's not going to be as much resistance because I have a nice little lever helping me push it down. Now that we've had a look at the machine we're going to be using, let's talk about the cosplay that we will be making. I really agonized over this cosplay. There were so many different requirements I gave myself for this video that I actually spent like a good 2 days just brainstorming costume ideas of what I was gonna make for you guys this weekend. First of all, I wanted it to be a costume I could make completely from stuff in my house, completely from my scrap fabrics. And that's because I am filming this video over Black Friday weekend, and the idea of going out this weekend and buying fabric actually terrifies me. I have been to Joann's on a Black Friday before, and I am fine if I never witness that again. Furthermore, I also needed to have a wig, shoes, accessories, any other pieces that I might need for this costume, all needed to be stuff I already owned. And it had to be something I could make within the weekend before my machines come back from maintenance. That's quite a few requirements. So I decided the best option was to just look at every outfit Nami from One Piece has ever worn. I've already done 2 Nami cosplays, so I have plenty of supplies, wigs, shoes, log pose. I have really everything I need accessories-wise for Nami, so it just came down to finding one of her outfits that I could make with my scrap fabric over the weekend. I came up with a whole 4 options! So we'll be making this lovely pink dress that Nami wears in the One Piece OVA 2 called Romance Dawn. It is on screen for a whopping 10 seconds. Whew, it does not have much screen time, but I think it's cute. I think it's something I would wear outside of cosplay, and it's gonna be the perfect, like, nice and simple project to show you how you could make a whole dress like this on an older machine. For the patterns, I'm gonna be using this Simplicity pattern. Clearly, I've used this pattern before. It's really not gonna require many alterations on my part to get this looking like Nami's dress. Then for the fabric, I have this pink fabric. It's really nice, stretchy. It's really a beautiful weight. So this fabric is left over from the bridesmaid dresses for my wedding. I ended up not having any bridesmaids at my wedding at all in the end, but we still have the fabric. So here we are, and I have plenty of this to make Nami's dress. So let's start cutting into the fabric. As I'm cutting out these dress patterns, I'm gonna make some very small modifications for this dress. I'm adding an entire inch to the neckline on the front and the back. This is because Nami's dress has a scalloped detail on the front and back of the neckline, and I wanted to have plenty of space to work out how I was going to sew this scalloped trim into the dress. I also lengthened the skirt. I went with 22 inches, which is probably going to be way too long. I think it'll just look a bit nicer to have it lined, so I'll be cutting everything out twice. I decided I was taking risks today, and I just cut out the outside layer and the lining layer at the same time. So I'm pretty confident that I can alter this in a way I don't need to cut it out differently. So see how that works. This is a stretch fabric, so I will need to do a zigzag stitch, and on this machine that's just done here. So when my husband bought this machine from the antique store, it had a single bobbin inside the machine, and that is the only bobbin I own for this machine. So I'm gonna say that the white thread I already have threaded is close enough, and I'm just gonna sew with white thread. I really don't wanna have to unwind the bobbin and rewind it with pink. There was only 5 pattern pieces for this whole dress, so it went pretty smoothly. I sewed the side front to the front, and then sewed that to the back, and then I sewed the skirt pieces together. I noticed this pattern actually had a dart in the back part of the skirt, and I don't think this was really necessary for what I'm using this pattern for, since I'm using a stretch fabric. I don't think I really needed these darts, but I decided to put them in anyways. So for putting in a dart, you just fold over this tiny piece of fabric and you sew that together in a little triangle shape. This will just kind of cinch in the waist a little bit to look super nice. And here's our high stakes mock-up layer, our lining layer. I think it turned out really nice. It actually fits pretty well. Yeah, I think it's good enough to go ahead and sew the outside layer as well, just doing all those seams all over again. We now have 2 dresses, one for the lining and one for the outside. At this point, I usually look at the seams and see which one's uglier, and the uglier one has to be the lining. So at this point, I want to stop and just do some things to make it look nicer. Having a really nice serger has made me lazy. But because I don't have a serger this time, I'm gonna go through and actually trim all of our seams. So you can see, like, this center seam, it has a whole lot of seam allowance here because the matchup wasn't quite perfect. The other thing I'm going to do is actually press my seams. When it comes to craftsmanship, like for cosplay contests, things like pressing your seams and finishing your edges and lining your garments are always going to be way more important than if you can use fancy decorative stitches on your machine. Not to say that decorative stitches aren't great. You know, I love a decorative stitch moment. I love my applique stitching, but doing these small things overall is way more important for craftsmanship and the overall look for the garment. Another craftsmanship tip is making sure your garment is properly tailored. You want to make it look like this costume was made specifically for you. It was custom fit for your body, because it should be. I ended up taking the side seams in by about 1/2 inch on both sides, and I also took the back seam in by another 1/2 inch. I think the scalloped hem is so cute. It's adorable. It's just very difficult to make. So to make these scallops, each one of these had to be cut out individually. So I made a little template. Ideally, I would have just used a fabric pen and traced it out, but I don't have a fabric pen that'll work on this fabric. Now, after that's done, I sewed along each of them, sewed along the edge, combining the outside and inside layers together. This is just also really tedious. You have to put down the needle and readjust the sewing foot a lot of different times to get all of the corners. And after that's done, I went in and I clipped the curve. So this is a term where you clip the excess fabric when you're doing curved shapes like this, so that when you flip them inside out, they actually look nice. Because that excess seam allowance is still there when you flip it inside out. And if it's not clipped, then it's hard for the fabric to move over each other. So I had to clip every one of them, flip it inside out, iron it. Ironing is super important to make these lay right. And I still wasn't super happy with how they looked after ironing, so I top stitched them. So I set the machine to a straight stitch and I straight stitch all over each one of them. And this is how it looks. So I'm really happy with the scalloped hem. All that's left is doing the fringe on the bottom of the dress and cleaning up the armholes. I only want one layer to be cut into the fringe. This fabric doesn't fray, so it'll be fine just to chop it up. But I only want one layer like that, not both. So I'm going to take the lining layer and hem it under, leaving just the outside layer extending maybe 2 inches past the dress, and then I'll chop that up into the fringed hem. After that's done, finish up the armholes. I could just flip in the sides and top stitch it down, but I think it'd look a lot nicer if I used a bias tape and put that around the armholes. So I could call the dress done at this point, but I did want to go a little bit more in detail. So if you look at the reference picture, it looks like there's a little detail inside each scallop. Maybe a sort of buttonhole, like lace embroidered detail. Now, if I had my fancy machine, I would just set it to either the decorative little circle stitch or even just a small buttonhole, and I'd put that in each scallop and it'd look really nice. Now, this machine cannot do those things. It can't make a little circle. What it can do, though, is a zigzag stitch. So I did a test run on the widest zigzag stitch with the smallest spacing. And it's just a little square, little block of stitching. So I want to try and add this little extra detail and just do a zigzag back and forth in the center of each scallop. I think that'll look really nice, and it's something we can still do on this older machine. Before we get into the final reveal, I'd like to talk about every other piece of this costume. So starting with the wig. Wow, this has a story. So my very first Nami cosplay was my Thriller Bark Nami. I made it in 3 weeks, and I wanted to wear it to a convention at the end of those 3 weeks. So, you know, con crunch era of my life. I ordered 2 different short orange wigs, hoping that at least one of them would work. Wig number 1 was this super obnoxious bright orange wig. Yeah, this is pretty bad. And the other option was the wig I ended up actually wearing with that outfit, and it's like basically blonde. It's like this peachy blonde wig. In my con crunch induced panic, after I received both of these wigs, one way too bright orange and one way too blonde, I ordered a 3rd wig from Amazon, and that's this one. And this wig was advertised as a Nami cosplay wig, specifically for this character, so at least I knew the color would be right. And Amazon has pretty fast shipping. Unfortunately, this wig did not arrive in time for me to use it. That's why I went with the blonde one, and I don't like any of those pictures. So after the con, I then ordered a 4th short hair Nami wig from Arta Wigs. It's actually a very good quality wig. I styled it up, it looks great, and that's the wig I'm wearing in all of these photos. Now, the Art wig probably seems like our best choice here because it was the only one that's really high quality, but my Thriller Bark Nami cosplay is currently listed for sale, and I just don't feel good wearing costumes that I currently have up for sale or restyling that wig so it's no longer in a ponytail when I'm trying to sell it. So we're going with the Amazon wig! For the necklace, I did not want to buy a necklace for this costume because I really don't think I'll wear it as a cosplay much in the future. I'm just going to put the dress into my everyday wear and everything else is already part of other costumes. So this is what I got for the necklace. This is a gold chain necklace that I already had on hand, and these are my hoop earrings for Flora, which I just sewed on with some gold thread. From my Nami Dressrosa cosplay, I have the gold bangle bracelet, and I have the log pose that I made. There is a tutorial for this on my channel. This log pose is from after the time skip. It's the New World log pose. The one she wears with this outfit is the older log pose. I cannot really be bothered. I'm just gonna wear this log pose. Last is the shoes. I'm just gonna wear my shoes from my Nami Dressrosa cosplay. These don't look exactly like the shoes she wears with this outfit, but I think it's close enough and I already have them. We are ready for the final reveal of our Nami Romance Dawn One Piece OVA outfit she only wears for 10 seconds on screen, sewn on a 1960s sewing machine. Final thoughts on our Nami pink dress outfit. I think this is really cute. I love how the scalloped hem turned out, and I think this is gonna be a fun addition to my everyday wardrobe. It's pink, so it matches, you know, a lot of my outfits. The fringe didn't turn out quite as well as I would have liked, just because it's a thinner fabric. But I still think it's cute. But now my babies, my machines, are back from maintenance, so I'm gonna start using those again. But this is a really good backup machine because it's an old cast iron machine. It'll never break, like, ever. So I have the 1960s machine tucked away, ready for whatever emergency might happen that I need my backup machine, and we're gonna get back to sewing on my regular machine. But this was a fun little challenge, and I hope it helped you guys see what you can make on older machines. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!